So apparently Grace's nerdy electrolyte chat in episode 1 was a hit and Grace is buzzing. And in a very wholesome plot twist, we now have Ocean, Grace's favourite electrolyte brand, sponsoring this whole series.
Honestly, it's a dream. And because they are angels, they've given us a juicy discount code just for Two's Company listeners. But first, I just want to remind you why electrolytes matter, even if you're not, say, a 10K loving, sweaty for fun athlete like Sophie over here.
I feel attacked already.
Hydration actually starts on a cellular level. Your cells don't just want plain water. In fact, too much non-mineral water can do more harm than good. They need minerals like magnesium, potassium, chloride, and sodium to get all their tiny, important cellular jobs done. And let's not forget that our cellular function is the backbone of our physiology and our health, folks. But here's the kicker. Because loads of electrolyte brands are basically salt slushies with random flavourings and sweeteners chucked in. And you really just don't need all that nonsense.
Okay, yes, I have definitely been drinking the nonsense once.
So Ocean is pure, simple, unadulterated goodness. No weird stuff. It comes in this very easy pump bottle, so you know exactly how much to measure into your glass. I tend to have it first thing in the morning, especially because you're at your most dehydrated first thing.
Wait, you're saying that my first thing cup of tea isn't hydration?
I'm saying we'll circle back to that with love and compassion, Soph.
Right. Anyway, Ocean are giving you 10% off with the code Two's Company. That's 2 the number, you know the drill. Pop that in at checkout at drinkocean.co, Ocean spelled OSHUN.
We genuinely love this stuff and we really hope you do too. Big thanks to Ocean.
Two's Company, Two's Company, Two's Company, Two's Company, Two's Company, Two's Company. But not 3, that's too much company.
Nailed it. Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Two's Company, series 2. I'm sorry it's taken us so long to get here. Basically, we tried to record while I was in Australia and the time difference with Sophie's parenting hours just did not work out. So apologies, it's been an age. My name's Grace Kingswell. I'm a nutritional therapist and I have my brilliant co-host, the multi-hyphenate Sophie Hellyer here with me.
Job titles aside, this season we're diving into all things that sit outside our day jobs, but right inside the middle of what fascinates, challenges, and occasionally morally puzzles us.
This week, we are having a good old catch-up after our rather accidental 2-month pause. Was it 2 months? Gosh, that is terrible, isn't it?
The last one we recorded was Christmas.
Oh, dear. Giving you a little news roundup as well, plus what we've been watching, reading, and inevitably spiralling off on some tangents we didn't plan on.
Think of it as our curated chaos. Just knocked over my water bottle as I said that. Chaos. Where we chat, question, laugh, and hopefully make you feel like you're having a proper natter with your best mate.
Okay, let's get into the episode.
Yeah, I just got in from a rather busy morning of I had to get my dog's anal glands done on the way to the nursery drop-off and still be at the desk here for 9 a.m. So that was a busy morning. Very glamorous.
That is pretty impressive that you managed to drop a kid at nursery. And how long does it take for a dog's... Oh, do I want to know?
Dog's anal glands, 2 minutes, including the bum wash. Anyway, how was Australia?
Whiplash. Yeah, it was good, thanks. I feel like from the outside, it looks like we're on a 6-week holiday, but what I need the listeners to know is that it's 6 weeks with no childcare, whilst I'm also still trying to work. So it's lovely to be there. And yeah, the weather was wonderful. And we did manage to miss the worst 6 weeks of weather in Cornwall, didn't we? Which was very jammy on our part. So I can't complain.
It rained pretty much every single day. And not just rain, but like torrential, non-stop rain where the sky is dark. It was just dark and wet for months.
Just so demoralizing. What do you do with a 3-year-old when it's like that every single day?
Luckily, my child just likes to stay at home a lot and play Lego. So we've done a lot of Lego this winter.
Brilliant. Yeah, that was always a good one. And you have had a knee operation since I've been away. Another knee operation since I've been away.
Yes, another one. I tore a meniscus giving birth in my knee, legs in stirrups, emergency theatre, and had that operated on when my kid was 1. And then I managed to tear the other one. Blame 20 years of playing football and surfing. But yeah, I had an operation nearly 2 weeks ago. So I've actually had quite a painful couple of months with that knee and looking forward to being on the other side now. And it's going to take a couple of months to rehab it. But yeah, excited to not be in pain all the time.
Yeah, I mean, is that the kind of thing that will happen again? Like, you obviously
No,
have
hopefully
dodgy
not.
knees.
Well, they've now removed half of the cartilage from both of my knees, which means that it's essentially like bone on bone. So I probably will get quite bad arthritis and need knee replacements, but we'll worry about that in 20 years. I forgot that you were pregnant yesterday.
I could not forget that at the stage of pregnancy that I am at.
So my kid turned 4 and we were having a party at soft play and I was like, "Oh, why doesn't Nick just go surfing and you come?" I'd obviously forgot that you can't crawl around soft play with a big bump.
No, and then, yeah, I wish you hadn't have sent him that message saying the surf was humping, because I quite clearly got the impression that that's where he'd rather be. But no, I suppose I do sometimes, like, I catch myself in the mirror and I'm like, whoa, that's big. And I wasn't this big. I mean, it's classic, isn't it? Second pregnancy, you're always a bit bigger because stuff has stretched already. So it kind of just pops out really fast. But I am a lot bigger this time round. And I mean, I've never been someone that enjoys pregnancy. I think I've like definitely spoken about that on this podcast before. And I'm 30 weeks now, nearly 31 weeks. So the end is near, which terrifies me because we can get into this in another episode, but I am going to try and have a vaginal birth this time round rather than a planned C-section because my placenta is playing ball, which is great. But then, of course, you're in the category of, oh, you'd like to have a VBAC, so we need you to be like on the delivery suite, in like basically in case your scar ruptures, which there's a 1 in 200 chance of, which is low. Like I keep telling
Wait, what?
myself.
Hang on. The C-section scar can rupture while you're giving birth, just like explode, like a scene out of Alien.
Yeah, I mean, try and keep the language positive for me, Soph, because I am obviously terrified.
It won't happen to you. You'll be grand. I
But
just
they
didn't know that
have
was a
to.
thing.
It's a thing.
Giving birth
and
is horrifying.
I know it's a thing, and they have to warn you about it. And they basically say if you want to have your VBAC anywhere that isn't the delivery suite, i.e., like the birth center or even at home, then you are technically outside of guidelines. And this is the phrase that they like love to bandy around at you. So every appointment I've had so far with the consultant and the midwife is like puts the fear of God into you and makes you think that you're going to be that 1 in 200 that dies, which is great. So I've got that to deal with, but my doula's being very supportive and helpful. But yeah, I'm still in denial that the baby has to come out at some point.
Yeah. And just to appreciate, like, being pregnant, there's a lot of anxiety involved in being pregnant and giving birth and having a newborn. I'm really glad that's all behind me because it's not easy at all.
I mean, feel quite relaxed about the postpartum because I've done that once before, but I have my body has never gone into labor. Like I'm a first time mum in that sense. Like I've never done that. I don't know what to expect. I am low grade terrified, but I also kind of rather sadistically do want to experience it. So we'll see.
Okay. What else have you been doing since you got home then?
Working very hard. It's been it's been a bit of a bump back into reality. The jet lag is savage. I forget every time how awful it is coming home because at least when you're going to Australia, there's loads of sunlight and you can go to the beach. It's all wonderful. And then you come home at this time of year and it's quite dark and still very rainy. So I think I underestimated how much being 30 weeks pregnant, being jet lagged, and then also I got a cold and also had to go straight back to work would affect me. But I feel like I'm kind of coming out the other side of that now.
Phew. And the kids are back in childcare.
Woo. Yeah, I know. Yay. Although Jude really didn't want to go in this morning. It's so hard, isn't it, when they say, I don't want to go today. And then you're like, well, you have to. And I don't
mine didn't either, but they're together. They'll be having a good time.
Yeah.
I also have been really busy with work, which is great. Basically, as the last 2 years, I haven't really earned any money as a content creator, and I've just been surviving off like part-time swim teacher money, which isn't very much, and selling things on Vinted helps to pay my mortgage. Basically, several things happened at once to me about a year and a half ago. So firstly, I was quite outspoken about Gaza and Free Palestine, which stopped me getting work. And then my agency that I was with got bought by a bigger agency that had like big talent like Lorraine Kelly and people on the books. So I was a very small fish. And my amazing, wonderful agent went on maternity leave. So those 3 things happened at once and I just stopped getting work. And I've had no work for like 18 months. And then I signed with a new agent in January and I'm now getting lots of work, which is quite overwhelming to be this busy, but I'm trying to just enjoy it and be glad because I finally won't be poor.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And also so rubbish that because you were outspoken about something really important, you suddenly got less work. I didn't realize that was
Yeah.
part of the reason.
Yeah, I mean, brands were very hesitant to work with someone who's speaking out about Gaza because, yeah, everyone will say it's a complex. I don't think it's that complex. Don't bomb children. Anyway.
But you're quite, I mean, your social presence is like these days, it's very like fashiony, but it's always had that political undercurrent, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I think, but there's politics that's like, I don't know the word, like easy for people to handle. Like if I'm talking about sewage and water pollution, plastic pollution, that's like, household conversation, easy to chat about politics. But if you're talking about war, which we are going to do a little bit in this podcast today, I think that's harder for people to palate.
Yeah,
Is that the right
maybe.
word? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
To
should we have a
palate, yeah.
jingle?
Let's have a jingle.
I've read 2 books and I've watched TV. I've got some stuff to recommend to thee.
Is it highbrow, lowbrow, or some other kind of stuff?
It's Culture Corner for cultural fluff.
So I wanted to put this in the explain it to me section, but we're going to talk about magnesium for that. So hold your horses. I know, riveting content from me again, everyone. But please explain this to me, Sophie. Right. The street styles obsession, like the street style set's obsession with tying lace scarves around their waist. I know that you've seen this because up until yesterday, you had not done this as a fashion influencer. Then I saw you wearing a lace dress over trousers and I died inside a bit. I'm not going to lie. Not because it didn't look nice. It did. I think a dress over trousers is very different to a scarf tied over trousers. But let's just please discuss this trend. I mean, honest thoughts. I know lace trim was everywhere on the runways recently, so it's only logical that it's trickled down to the street style gals. But it just makes me giggle and I can't deal.
I love it. I wore like those little silk and lace shorts all last summer.
But that's different. That's an item of clothing thing in itself. You haven't like tied a scarf around your trousers.
My vibe is very much, I love like boyish, oversized, like tomboy clothing, but just with a little sprinkle of femininity. So like I'll wear a big oversized graphic tee and a pair of trainers, but I'll wear like a little silky pair of shorts. So that's kind of very my vibe. So when I saw all the girls in Copenhagen wearing this, little lace trims everywhere, I love it. So yesterday I wore a little silky lace dress over my jeans. I am old enough that I did this trend the first time round. I think we used to call it Skousers, skirt over trousers. Yeah. Apparently the cool girls now call it scant, skirt over pants.
Okay.
So I was wearing a scant. I do not have any lace to tie around my waist, but stand by because I would love to. You're going to see this trend more from me. I like it.
I mean, so I don't know if you follow Luca McCabe. She's the founder of Boob to Food. And she encapsulates that amazing Australian fashion vibe, which is very assembly label, very kind of
Angie Smith type style.
Yeah, like simple basics, but really nice, like maybe quite interesting silhouettes, that kind of thing. Lots of like crisp cotton trousers with a flip-flop, like a leather flip-flop, not like a rubber flip-flop. And like a little top. And she has been tying like a silk scarf around her trousers for a while. But I don't know what it is about the lace that really bugs me. And like, obviously it does look great on Holly Mercedes, as you said, and all of, those people. But then when these trends filter down...
Excuse me, it looks great on me too, thank you. I also think that Aussie fashion's quite different to the like Copenhagen fashion set.
It's very
the
different.
London fashion. It's a very different thing. It's a different climate.
It is very different. But yeah, like skirts and dresses over trousers, anything over trousers is big.
I have
big
something
news.
else to say here. So when I wore my little dress over my jeans that made you die inside, I was at a little weekend away with free people on a little retreat weekend. And everyone kept taking the piss out of me all weekend for being old.
I saw this in the show notes and I don't understand.
Wait, just for instance, they very kindly gifted us some clothes and they sent us a little, like a PDF online to choose clothes from. And I said like, that top's lovely. I didn't see it in the brochure. And they were all absolutely in hysterics that I'd used the word brochure because that's not what the kids say. They were like, it's a deck or at the very least a lookbook. No one says brochure. And then I said something about someone having a very nice blouse and they were like, okay, fucking grandma, who says blouse? It's like, sorry, what? And then, of course, I left the party at 9:30 p.m. to go home to bed like a grandma. They were all kind of like 27, like a good 10
Were
years younger than
they?
me.
Okay.
And it was very noticeable, the age difference. There was a lot of talk about star signs and situationships,
Can I
whatever
ask you
they
about
are.
this? Because this always seems to come up when we're like hanging around with like gal mates in Cornwall. Everyone is so friggin' into their star sign. And I'm like, give me a fucking break.
I know. It's the first question so many people ask when we're in gatherings, like, oh, what star sign are you? Like on New Year's Eve at my house,
Give
all
a
the girls are
shit.
talking about it. Who cares what star sign I am?
It has absolutely no bearing on me as a person. Like, I truly, fundamentally do not believe in it.
I'm going to say one thing about this. I always say, you might have heard me say it before. The moon pulls the whole ocean in and out twice a day. So like the position of the moon affects the oceans. And then thus also we either ovulate with a new moon or a full moon. So like menstruation also happens in tune with the moon. So I do think there is perhaps something in the position of the planets affecting us. But I think that's a very complex thing we don't understand. And I don't think you can just say, oh, you're a Cancer, you're really sensitive. Like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
sorry.
I know.
I feel like the podcast is about to be unfollowed by 50% of the listeners. Sorry.
Dear. Well, hopefully they can just
Bye.
appreciate it as, two really middle-aged old people that just are not down with it. We're just not down enough with the kids to get star signs, okay? That's all it is.
Anyway, I feel like some other fashion catch-ups. You bought the Solomon trainers that all the it girls are wearing that are very cool, but then you also said you're not that sold on them.
I know.
Thoughts and feelings?
I know, I did buy them. And I bought a Nike pair of trainers the other day that I was like, no, I'm going to replace the Solomons with these. And I sent them back because, I sent you a picture of them. They were just like too black. I feel like it's got to that point where I jumped on the trend too late and everyone has them, even though they are actually quite easy to style. I got like a kind of brown and white pair. I'm really into the whole ugly trainer thing. I do really like that. And then every time I send my husband links, he's like, these are disgusting. These are disgusting. I really hate
yes,
these.
But practical. I could run away from a bad person.
I know. And I've actually got to the stage where if I send my husband a link to something, he's like, no, I really hate that. I'm like, that is a good sign.
Yeah, Johnny hates a lot of whenever Johnny says he hates something and I wear it into the village, everyone, like the girls at the coffee shop are always like, oh my God, I love that jacket. I'm like, brilliant, because Johnny hates it.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I also say that Grace Kingswell announced to me the other day, after I bought and posted my 150 quid Damson Madder Gingham coat, she just texted me and was like, Gingham's over. Sorry, Gingham shall never be over. I've got gingham trousers, a gingham dress, 2 gingham swimsuits, gingham coat. Love it all. Who cares about the trends? I love gingham.
I know. It's true. And look, if you can see behind me, I have got gingham bedding, which I do really love. And I do really like my gingham shorts. I'm a bit over my gingham toast trousers. But I feel like your Damson Madder coat isn't really gingham. It's like check. I don't know.
Dig yourself out that trench, Grace.
Yeah, I'm trying really hard anyway. So what have you been loving lately, Soph? TV, fashion, read anything interesting?
Wuthering Heights. Okay, so the girls took me to the cinema when I was on my crutches last week, which was very sweet of them. You weren't back in time to come, though you were invited. I'm not a book purist. I've never actually read it, so I wasn't going in comparing it to the novel. And I know I've seen lots of criticisms. Obviously, it's whitewashed. Heathcliff likely wouldn't have been a white guy, and the story does romanticize a lot of toxic behavior like domestic violence. But that aside, I honestly thought it was brilliant. The soundtrack, the set, the costumes, the cast, I just think it was all amazing, and I really loved it, and I definitely recommend it. Are you going to go and see it?
Yes, I'm definitely going to see it. I, of course, have read the book, and it is, it's a classic.
This is showing our different backgrounds.
Yeah, it's a classic.
I
one of my
definitely never
favorites.
read it.
Let me just say, you've also probably never read Jane Eyre, have you?
Of course not. I went to a shitty state school. I didn't even read a book. I watched Romeo and Juliet, the movie, and that's what I did it on.
I didn't have to read it for school. This is just my extracurricular. No, Jane Eyre is my mum.
I was probably reading Twilight.
Jane Eyre is my mum's favourite novel, so I read it. Yeah, I'm going to see it, but I'm going to wait till it comes out on streaming because all of the cinemas in Cornwall reek of mould and I don't want to sit in it for an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I will watch it on my sofa. I have watched, which I can guarantee you have not watched, the new series of Bridgerton.
Not my thing. I'm just not into it. Not my thing at all. I feel like Bridgerton the same way I feel about Emily in Paris. It's just not for me.
It was just like a warm hug that I needed when I was in the trenches.
Warm, sexy hug.
A warm, sexy hug in the trenches of jet lag. And I've actually now gone back to series 1 and I'm watching it all again because I just get really fixated on things like that. And it was brilliant. And I noticed that you used some of the music from it on one of your reels recently, which made me chuckle because I was like, she has got no idea where this has come from, but it's the
No,
number
not
one
intentionally.
trending audio on Instagram.
But I rewatched 6 seasons of Downton Abbey this year because it's like just having a cup of tea, you know?
Bridgerton's kind of the same as Downton Abbey, just
No,
with a bit
it's like
more.
it's like a cheesy, sexy version that I'm just not into. It's not as authentic.
Downton Abbey
Just
got
looks really
pretty bad though towards the end, didn't it?
Don't you slag off Downton Abbey to me, Grace Kingswell.
So when I was at university, we had, so you know Julian Fellows, who was the, like, did he write? No, he adapted it. Did he write it? Oh, I don't know. Anyway,
I don't bloody know, mate.
Julian Fellows, creator, let's just say, of Downton Abbey, he came to talk at the, what's the like fancy thing in Cambridge where we like had debates and stuff? The Union.
Ask me, I'll know.
Well, like
Jokes.
lots of universities have unions, but this one was like particularly fancy. He came and did a talk, and I remember going to listen to him, and he was like so charismatic. And this is when Downton was like at its absolute peak. But I do feel like towards the end, it wasn't great. And then the movies that came out were also not great.
My union was where you went to get a pound a pint. A pound a
Yeah,
pint? A
that
pint for a
too.
pound.
That too.
Anyway, I'm really desperate to see Hamlet. I want to go and see Hamlet in the cinema. And I've also
I'd like
read
to
lots
see
of
that.
books recently, and I intended to write them down to recommend, but I'll save that for next week because I forgot.
Okay, well, so let's talk about what's going on in the world. I mean, we need to, but also, like, I think we were both saying how there's a little bit an element of like self-preservation going on here where everything feels incredibly heavy, and some days you do have to bury yourself a little bit, and then other days you have a bit more capacity to engage. But last time we drafted notes for this episode of the podcast, which was, as we have said, many weeks ago, our news roundup included the Beckhams feud.
Which I've forgotten about now, but they've fallen out with their son. Anyway.
I've forgotten about now too. And the ICE misdoings in America. But the political landscape has shifted once again, and now there is war in the Middle East. The world feels exceedingly heavy and scary, so we'll touch on it, but not kind of chew your ear off over it, I think, as I'm sure you're all keeping abreast of recent developments anyway. And this is not strictly a news podcast, but we do like to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't like to avoid topics that are hard to talk about. So the war between Iran and the US-Israel side is now in its second week. Iran's UN ambassador says that more than 1,300 civilians have been killed so far.
Yeah, and it's already pushing up oil prices, pushing markets down, and people are really worried it could spread across, you know, the whole region. What I think is interesting, though, is that it initially to me felt like a very new conflict in the West, but the roots actually go back way back to 1953, when Iran had this democratically elected prime minister who tried to nationalize the oil industry, which Britain had a huge control over. And so then the UK and the US backed a coup, removed that leader, and put the Shah back in power, basically creating this like Western-backed dictatorship that led to then the Iranian Revolution, because obviously they did not want to be ruled by a Western-backed dictatorship.
Yeah, and then you had the Iran-Iraq war, where Iraq invaded Iran with backing from the US. And since then, Iran's responded by backing groups like Hamas and Hezbollah and building up its missile program, right?
Yeah, so essentially it's like we're seeing decades of political rivalry and tension finally boiling over, even though it's all just like, whoa, what's happening?
Yeah, I do, like you just said, I feel pretty overwhelmed by the news right now. I don't think I'm educated enough on the history of this to speak on it, but it's all quite frightening, and it really does feel like things are like edging closer to something much bigger. But I have had my blinkers on a little bit. There's only so much awful news I can take. And I know from the podcast I listen to that it's incredibly complicated. I know Iran hit a British base in Cyprus, and these aren't just military bases. There's like families living there. There's schools. They have a soft play. So, you know, you look at that and you think, how as a country are we supposed to respond to that when someone bombs a British base with families on it? But at the same time, I can't shake the feeling like war's just not the answer. War is never the answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to feel worried about where all of it could lead. And I think so many of us are feeling real anxiety over that. And I also think, you know, with Donald Trump in power as well, it all just feels like, as you say, we're building up to something cataclysmic, like something awful's going to happen.
Reining this back into influencer land, which I'm slightly more comfortable speaking about, I saw an interesting thing about Dubai. Obviously, Dubai relies heavily on being like a dream destination, and they have these mandatory licensing rules, which means every creator out there, every influencer has to have a valid permit to work, because influencing is technically advertising, right? So the Dubai authorities stated that if any creators out there post anything to cause public panic during a time of crisis, they could face 2 years in prison and £40,000 fine. So all the influencers in Dubai are basically just out there saying it's fine. But I spoke to one of our close mutual friends, you know who, I won't say her name, who has family out there. She's just got back from there. And, you know, it sounds like it's really unsafe out there. There are missiles going off. There are no flights out. Everyone's trapped there. Yeah, the internet's kind of telling a slightly different story about it.
That's so interesting, isn't it? I didn't realize that that was the case. And you've also just reminded me about that mutual friend, and I need to check in. But I mean, it's not really censorship, is it? But I think that's actually quite sensible, because influencing is advertising, and so much of it is unregulated. And then you get, you know, shoddy advice from lots of people. But yeah. Ho hum.
The only other thing I have to say on that is that it must be almost exactly 4 years since Russia invaded Ukraine, which is obviously another ongoing conflict, because when I went into labor, Russia were invading Ukraine, and I didn't know. It felt like when I came out of the hospital, it might be like World War III might have started. And it felt a bit like that now, like it's my child's 4th birthday, and it just feels like we're on the edge of World War III. We are very privileged to live somewhere where there's peace, but also knowing that that isn't necessarily stable, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I have to mention, changing the subject, Jim Carrey, which I didn't think I needed to explain why I had to mention it. And then Grace was like, what, Jim Carrey? Why is he in the notes? So there's listeners are going to be in 2 camps here. There's going to be the listeners who believe that Jim Carrey has been cloned because he knew too much about the satanic, cannibal, paedophile billionaires. And there's going to be people who are like, what?
Like me.
So we're not going to deep dive this. Basically, Jim Carrey did his first public appearance in months at an awards in Paris, and he did not look or act like Jim Carrey. I don't believe it's a clone, which is a really popular conspiracy theory. But I also don't think Jim Carrey was the type of person to get loads of filler and Botox. I just think the whole thing's really strange. Like, did he send a double or an actor? He was also there with his daughter. I don't know. My whole algorithm has just been feeding me like all of these conspiracies about, and you know, a lot of conspiracies don't seem as far-fetched since the Epstein files, since finding out that like actually there are some incredibly wealthy, like there was a huge pedophile ring. Anyway, anything to say about Jim Carrey?
Well, only that my whole algorithm is now full of these videos too, because you sent me lots of them in my DM. So thank you for that. I was enjoying just cute videos of golden retrievers for so long, and now I just have to deal with these Jim Carrey things. I'm mainly here for the cultural fluff and fashion, so I'm fine with you just sending me these memes on Instagram, and I will look at them when I have time to spare from my golden retriever videos.
Okay. Anything else for Culture Corner?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like we could catch up for forever,
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay, jingle.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Explain it to me unprofessionally.
I'll keep it short and concise.
Yeah, that'd be nice. So, quick question. What is magnesium actually doing? I take it at night and suddenly I sleep like a Victorian child with no responsibilities. And then there's the bath version. Like, why am I seasoning my bath like I'm a rotisserie chicken? Am I absorbing the minerals? Does it work? I don't know. I'm just taking magnesium, but I don't know why. Come on.
Why did you say like a Victorian child? I want to know about that, because I feel like actually a childhood in the Victorian times would have been really not very nice.
Maybe they had loads of responsibilities. Maybe they were like working down the mines and stuff. Maybe I'm sleeping like a really privileged middle class child.
3-year-old, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sleeping like because my privileged middle class 3-year-old does not sleep well.
I know. I don't actually know what to do about sleep with my privileged 3-year-old middle class child, because he
Give him some magnesium.
With the travel, we kind of sleep with him to help him through the night with the jet lag. And now we're in this stage where in 10 weeks' time, potentially there will be, well, at some point soon, God help me, there will be a small newborn baby in my arms that will definitely be sleeping in my bed. but my 3-year-old is still sleeping in my bed. And how do we, like, I can't have both of them in my bed, can I? Maybe I can. I don't know how we get
I
him,
mean,
because he used to sleep in his room absolutely fine,
can
but now he doesn't want to
can
sleep
Nick
in his room.
Kingswell not have one of the children?
Yeah, this is going to sound really awful, but Nick Kingswell, and I think a lot of women will relate to this, but he can't deal with being tired. He can't deal with the broken night's sleep in the same way that, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm shattered too, but I think there's like hormonal patterns in us women that help us a bit more. Like if Jude comes into me in the nighttime, yes, it wakes me up and that is really annoying, but I do tend to fall back to sleep. Whereas if Jude goes into Nick at like 2 a.m., that's it. Nick's pretty much just awake and he often does not go back to sleep.
That's like me.
And then he's useless the next day.
I love Nick Kingswell, but I think he's just going to have to be tired for a little while. I will say Johnny was actually bloody brilliant at nights. He did. I mean, I did everything for the first year or so, but there was this time where Johnny just took over, and Johnny did most of the nights and still does. Because
we did that too. Like when it got to the stage where we were like, Jude really needs to start sleeping, then Nick took over all the night wakes because they want mummy and the boob and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so magnesium. It's a great question. And actually, as someone with ADHD, magnesium should be in your supplement stack daily.
It is.
So
Don't know what
that's
it's
good.
doing, but it is.
So I think, there's two things at play here. Firstly, the magnesium itself supports sleep because it binds to GABA receptors. And GABA is the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter. So it makes you feel like lovely and calm. And it kind of blocks the very excitatory signals that we may have, reducing nerve activity and promoting relaxation. So it calms the nervous system, supports the regulation of stress hormones, and supports melatonin production, all via this GABA receptor pathway. And then the second thing is that it does matter to some extent what the magnesium is bound to. So we have various different forms available to us. I don't know which form you're taking, but we have magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate, etc., magnesium malate, and they can kind of do different things, although predominantly it's the magnesium doing the work. But magnesium glycinate, for example, is a good option to take before bed because glycine, which is an amino acid that the magnesium has been bound to, has been shown in the research to support deep sleep cycles. So rather than taking like a magnesium malate before bed, which might be a little bit more energy giving, you would maybe take a magnesium glycinate. And sponsored content incoming, but the Ocean product, the magnesium, Ocean magnesium, is really interesting because it's unbound. So it's not bound to glycine or another amino acid. So the body doesn't have to break any chemical bonds before it can actually use the magnesium. Magnesium is needed as a cofactor for over 300 enzyme reactions that take place in our bodies every single day.
Right, and foods are lower in magnesium these days, right? Because the soil is somewhat depleted. I know this after 4 years of working on an organic veg farm in the west of Ireland, that the soil is dying. So magnesium is basically a great supplement to consider for daily usage for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can take it in my bath. Does that work?
Yeah, you can put it in your bath. So the form that you put in your bath via Epsom salts is a sulfated form of magnesium sulfate. And it's a nice way of absorbing magnesium, so a different route into the body via the skin. And also kind of supports the detox pathways via sulfation, which is one of the ways that we detox. So that's why you will hear that Epsom salt baths are helpful for detox. So yeah.
And last question, does it matter what time of day I take it? Like, do I need to be taking my magnesium supplements at bedtime, or can I just take them in the morning or whenever?
Well, it sort of depends why you are taking the magnesium. Are you taking it to support your sleep? In which case, yes, take it before bed. Like I said, perhaps a magnesium glycinate would be the best form to take before bed. But to be honest, given that it is so fundamental for like all of those reactions that happen in our bodies every day, you could feasibly also take it in the morning too. It's not something you can really OD on, and you may just want to split your dose, have half it in the morning and half it before bed. I will also just mention that you can use our Ocean discount code. So Ocean make incredible electrolytes, which we both love, and also this very interesting unbound magnesium product, which is a liquid. The code is Two's Company, and that will give you 15% off at drinkocean.com. And that is confusingly spelt oshun.com.
It also says in the notes 15% off ? Is it actually 15% or were we meant to double check that? I
think
can't
it is.
remember.
No, it's 15%.
It gives you some money off. Okay, great.
Yeah, it's 15%.
Thanks, Ocean. There's a jingle then.
Send us an email if you're a really cool female.
Ooh, you're such a cool female.
Send us a letter to make us feel better.
You make us feel better.
Time for the mailbag.
Time for the mailbag. So we accidentally went silent on the pod for 2 months and I thought that nobody noticed. And then I realized I just hadn't logged into the Two's Company Instagram. And we actually had so many messages asking where we were and when we were going to be back. So here we are. I'm sorry life got in the way. We are busy parenting and working and, all of the stuff that comes along with that. But we'll try our best to get the podcast back to fortnightly. At the moment, it's more of a hobby for us. It's not like we're making a lot of money from this. So please follow the show, share it with your friends and family, because the more listens we get, the more that we can justify taking time off to produce it, right? And also write to us because the mailbag is my favorite jingle. And I don't want to just talk to Grace. I need to set up a WhatsApp. I need to get a burner phone and set up... I need to get a burner phone and set up a little WhatsApp so that people can send us voice notes. Shall I do that?
That's actually a great idea, but does it need to be a burner phone? If you just use your normal phone, is that going to be too overwhelming? Or you don't want to
I'm
have
not
people to have
giving
your
the
number?
internet my normal number. No, I'll get like weird dick pics from people.
Yeah, actually, you do always get the randoms, don't you? I think
maybe I'll get some new customers who want to buy my dirty pants.
Yeah.
Please listen to old episodes if you don't understand that reference.
I think that really nicely rounds us up for this week. It's been quite a whistle-stop tour, but it's good to be back, even if, briefly to begin with. I feel like we could have caught up for hours today, but I have a very important work call in about 30 minutes, which I'm low-grade stressing over. Please follow the show on Apple Podcasts so each episode magically appears on your phone, and give us a nice little 5 stars. When I listen to other podcasts like I am at the moment, such as The Birth Rebellion and The Midwife's Cauldron and all of those ones that try and make me feel confident about giving birth, they talk for like minutes at a time about how important it is that if you enjoy the podcast, you engage with it on podcast platforms and follow and leave reviews and all of that stuff. And I don't think we do that enough. So if you like this podcast, do the things and we will be really grateful.
Yeah, thank you for listening and being part of our little corner of the podcast world.
Right, on with the day.
I just knocked everything on my desk over. Bye!
Two's Company, Two's Company, Two's Company, Two's Company, Two's Company, Two's Company.
But not 3, that's too much company.
Nailed it. Thank you so much again to Ocean for sponsoring this entire series of the podcast. We are very grateful and also thrilled to be spreading the word about such a lovely brand.
Yes, and Ocean are giving our listeners 10% off with the code Two's Company. That's 2, the number, you know the drill. Pop that in at checkout at drinkocean.co. Ocean is spelled OSHUN. And thank you so much.
I say H, not H. Find that weird. Thank you so much to Ocean. Bye-bye.